Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
He tries to swerve in front of my car, and I see him at the last second because he shouldn't have been in that area. And I had to swerve, and I hit this red car, and then he hit the back of my car.
Something tells me Mr. Velton's going to have a different version of what happened. In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Kenny Dillard claims a reckless bike messenger caused him to rear-end another car. Mr. Dillard is suing Rennie Velton in the amount of $1,674. Mr. Velton is countersuing for $463.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties been sworn, Your Honor.
Good Eboni Thomas. All right, so Mr. Dillard, you're suing for $1,674 based on a collision that occurred. And Mr. Velton, you are countersuing, sir, for $463. You feel as though Mr. Dillard was at fault.
Yes.
Prove your case, sir. We'll start with you.
Well, Your Honor, I recently moved to LA with my wife for work.
Okay.
So I'm sure you know the traffic in LA is terrible.
I am a native Angelino, and yes, it is horrible.
Right. I'm not native, but it is very bad.
Yes.
So I'm a broker at a firm in Culver City, and I've been trying to find a route to get me to work quicker. It takes me about an hour to get to work. So I've been trying different routes. Every route, I can expect the usual selfish driver to not let me merge over when I need to get over, or people cutting me off. And I've gotten used to people bicycling in the bicycle lane and sometimes swerving through lanes.
And Mr. Velton, you were on your bicycle.
I was riding my bicycle, yes.
And is this a route that you normally take?
It is not a route that I've taken before, no.
Any particular reason why you were taking it on this occasion?
I was delivering food to an address that was
You
close
were
to
working at the time?
I was, yes.
And the delivery is always done through a bicycle?
Yes, I take my deliveries on bicycle. Other deliverers use their cars, but I use my bicycle.
How long have you been doing this type of work, sir?
About 6 months.
6 months. I know that there's an issue sometimes with the coexistence of bikes and vehicles.
Yes, but I've never had an accident before.
You'd never had an accident before. And what do you recall happening while you were on your bicycle?
Well, I just finished the delivery and I was heading back to the building that we run our deliveries out of. Mm-hmm. And I had to get over across traffic. The traffic was backed up. I noticed Mr. Dillard here was cutting over from one lane into another.
All right, Mr. Dillard, did you happen to see Mr. Velton on his bicycle?
I saw him prior to the wreck a little further back, kind of weaving through traffic like a Manhattan bike delivery boy, kind of shifting gears, driving very recklessly. Okay. And then I did not see him once the light turned green for me to go forward.
All right. Did you collide with Mr. Velton?
I was trying to avoid him because once I noticed him on the bike, I wanted to avoid him, and it caused me to hit another car, and then his bike hit my car.
Your avoidance of his bicycle caused you to collide with another vehicle.
Caused me to hit the car in front of me, yes.
Tell me exactly what happened with your car and that other vehicle.
Can I use some
Yes.
You want to approach? Why don't you come around this way, sir? You just stand over there.
All right, so like I said, I'm trying to get to work in the morning.
Yes,
Traffic is crazy on all these streets.
Okay.
So I'm coming up Exposition, and I'm trying to get across to Robertson Boulevard.
Okay.
I am in the right lane. This was a new route for me, which turns right. I didn't
Now,
realize
I see that at the bottom it says freeway. Were you getting off of the
Yeah, I
freeway?
had exited the freeway.
You had exited the freeway and you were going down Exposition towards Robertson. In that particular part of Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, this was a newer route for me, so I didn't realize that the right lane was a right turn only. So I was up in the right lane.
Now, here's the problem that I'm having, though. I've actually used that exact route. It gives you notice ahead of time you're going to have to turn right.
I think I got a little distracted by the traffic and the reckless driving of Mr. Velton on the bicycle.
How long have you been driving, sir?
I've been driving for a long time, since I was 16.
Since you were 16. So is that an excuse if you collide with someone else that you were distracted?
It is not, but I would not have collided had he not caused me to swerve, which I can show you up here.
You were distracted because ultimately you weren't trying to stay in that lane to turn right. And what's the street that you would be turning right onto?
I was on this lane. So
Right.
when I got here, I put on my blinker. A nice driver let me over instantly. So I didn't do any traffic stopping in the right lane. As soon as I
Okay.
put my blinker on, he waved me over. It was a nice
All right.
person on
Continue.
the way. So I get in the straight lane now, and I'm going straight across. So I have to go
Because
across.
ultimately, you're trying to go past the intersection
Yes.
and then turn left.
Yeah, because I'm trying to go actually straight all the way through from this lane, all the way. This is Venice.
Now, that lane that you got the blinker in, it allows you to go either straight or turn?
This lane that I'm in this lane right here,
Right.
and it goes straight through to Robertson. So now I'm in the correct lane to go across
straight
Robertson.
through?
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue.
So now I'm going across to Robertson.
Yes, sir.
And I get to this point, and I cannot see the biker anymore. He's been back here kind of swerving between all 4 lanes instead of being in the
Was
right
it
lane. near the
congested
curb.
and that's why you were able to see him from behind you?
Yeah, it was congested. You could see him swerving through. So now that
Got
I'm
it.
coming across here,
Yes.
he has come from all the way from this side, and I guess he needed to go left on Venice, and he's all the way over here on the right side. He tries to swerve in front of my car, and I see him at the last second because he shouldn't have been in that area. And he tried to come around me and pull a Lance Armstrong move as fast as he could. And I had to swerve, and I hit this red car, and then he hit the back of my car.
Coming up on America's Court.
The only lane I was able to get into was the far right lane.
Which means you're supposed to turn right.
I was, yes.
You did the same thing that he did.
And later,
I help men and anyone really get the courage to communicate with someone. I hired Miss Fine
Yes.
because, we need someone to actually, a lady to talk to.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Kenny Dillard, who is suing Rennie Velton for property damage.
Something tells me Mr. Velton's going to have a different version of what happened. So you may return to the podium. And Mr. Velton,
Yes, sir.
what say you about that explanation?
Would you like me to come up?
Absolutely.
Why don't you come through the well for me?
And he's like, oh, good, my turn to play. All right.
All right. So as I had explained before, I was at this building here. I just finished
You were
my
at that
delivery.
building.
This is where I had made my delivery.
Got it.
So I came this way off of this street. As I had mentioned before, these 2 lanes both were fully congested, backed up to here. So I had no way to go that way. The only lane I was able to get into was the far right lane.
Which means you're supposed to turn right.
I was, yes. I figured because I didn't want to turn right because the building I'm located in is off the map in this area.
You did the same thing that he did.
Well, what I was going to do was I just wanted to make it to the sidewalk
That
so I
doesn't
could
change what I just said.
walk my bike.
That didn't change what I just said. You were going to do the very, because you saw him explain what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you were in a situation where you really were supposed to turn right. You didn't want to do that.
Correct.
And you were like, since I'm in a bike and I can have a little bit more wiggle room, I'm going to also turn left. Is that what happened? Yes?
Ultimately.
Okay,
But
then that's a yes.
My plan was to cross the street on my bike. But as you can see, there was construction happening here, which I hadn't seen before.
Okay.
So I was unable to do that. So ultimately, I could see this car sitting up here, and I thought a car is easier to stop than a
Because
bike
we've
does.
spent all this time talking, but what we haven't talked about, and I understand what you're saying, you can return to the podium as well. Both of you are saying the same thing, so the story is consistent. Where does the red car come into play?
The red car was going up Robertson as well in front of me, and the reason they got hit is because I had to swerve to miss Mr.
You
Velton.
ended up, your blue car, for the purpose of this diagram, ends up colliding into the red car.
Yes, Your Honor.
From behind.
Yes.
But you were trying to ultimately go through Robertson based on this diagram.
I was going to follow him through Robertson, yes. And then when I had to swerve to hit him, it caused my car to spin a little bit and hit the car in front of me.
All right. Did your car sustain damage and the red car sustain damage?
My car sustained damage. The red car did not sustain any damage.
So you don't have any issues with the person that was in that
No,
car?
he was a great guy.
Okay. Then if your car collided with the red car, is that where the damage came from?
My damage came mainly from him hitting the back of my car and some damage from the front of the car that was all caused by him coming into my
Let me
lane.
make sure I'm understanding. The 1674 you're suing for partially is due to the damage that your car sustained as a result of the other car, and partially because of what his bike did to your.
Yeah, all from
Do you have
result
proof
of
of
him.
that?
Yeah, I have a receiver.
I'll look at that. Now, Mr. Velton, did you end up colliding with Mr. Dillard's car?
I did. And it ultimately ended up in the complete wreckage of my bike, which rendered me unable to do my job.
You hit the front of your vehicle, hit the back of his vehicle.
Correct, yes.
Why is he at fault for you rear-ending him?
Because he had indicated with his blinker that he was turning the same way I was going, but ultimately he wanted to go straight. And he was not cooperative in traffic. I'm just on a bike. I don't have anything protecting me around.
But you hadn't even gathered enough speed to be going at a velocity such to where you couldn't stop.
Well, I wasn't planning on his car being in front of me.
I understand that. And whoop, there it is, though. There's the car. So having seen it and understood, you sustained damage. You essentially rear-ended him. Your vehicle, your bicycle, got damaged as a result of rear-ending Mr. Dillard. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you now, based on the evidence and testimony before this court, your counterclaim, that's not going to happen. Because you hit him. Because you didn't give him the sufficient space that you should have given him, even if you're on a bicycle. So your matter is dismissed. Now, the issue that we have here is, have you been able to prove, based on a preponderance of the evidence, that Mr. Velton was sufficiently negligent to cause damage? Plaintiffs have to prove preponderance based on at least 50% plus one. And what I'm finding myself doing is I'm going back and forth. You're both credible. You both were in a hurry. Do you have a slight advantage based on what Mr. Velton is saying? The answer is no. So your matter is also going to be dismissed. Both matters will not receive any compensation. That is the order. Case closed.
Judge Ross has ruled. Both claims have been dismissed.
I wish bikers would stay in the bike lane or on the sidewalk. This accident could have been completely avoided had he been out of the way.
Everyone should pay more attention to bicycles. We're people too, and I could have died from this.
Coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
Initially, the reason why we were here is because she wanted half of the profits from that seminar, which were $1,000 to me. So $500 is what she initially said she wanted.
But you're not even conveying that to me right now.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Crystal Fine claims she was hired for the defendant's seminar to help teach men how to talk to women and says she wasn't paid for her overtime. Ms. Fine is suing Martin Carter in the amount of $700.
All right, Ms. Fine, prove your case.
Hello, I'm here because I'm suing Mr. Carter for $700. I worked for him for 4 hours at his seminar, his women's seminar, and
what were you doing during those 4 hours, ma'am?
I was he was demonstrating on me everything
He was demonstrating on you?
Well,
Mr. Carter, what were you demonstrating on her?
Demonstrating, that sounds like I was doing something wrong to her. I wasn't.
Nefarious, yeah.
Yeah, nothing like that.
What type of work do you do, sir?
Well, I am sort of a motivational speaker. I help men and anyone really get the courage to communicate with someone. People that come to my seminar are having a hard time finding, romantic interests.
So you're sort of like a life coach for guys who may be a little clueless in that area.
Yeah, I was once one myself, so I pass on what I learned.
And look at you now. Huh?
That's right. Thank you.
And you have these seminars, and you ask Ms. Fine to be a part of the seminar?
Yeah, I hired Ms. Fine.
Yes.
Because, we need someone to actually, a lady to talk to in these seminars.
And is it just men only that are in the room other than the woman who may be the subject or the person that you're communicating with?
These particular seminars, they are. So it's just men only.
And how many men were at this particular event?
I will say I don't have that figure right off the top of my head, but we were at 10 to 15 range.
All right, somewhere between 10 to 15. You recall there being about 10 to 15 gentlemen there?
Actually about 10.
Okay, it was closer to 10. And you were the only woman there?
I was the only one.
Coming up on America's Court.
Initially, the reason why we were here is because she wanted half of the profits from that seminar, which were $1,000 to me. So $500 is what she initially said she wanted.
But you're not even conveying that to me right now.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Crystal Fine, who is suing Martin Carter for unpaid wages.
How did it come up that he needed you for this particular session?
Well, I was introduced to it by my mother.
You knew her mother from being neighbors?
Yeah, I've known her parents for a while. We were neighbors.
Did you two talk directly about this, or was this all conveyed through your mom?
Well, sorry, Your Honor, I have evidence here. It was not all through my mom. I actually did go to his house the weekend before.
Okay, let me take a look at that.
All right.
All right. Ultimately, Ms. Fine,
you want to give the judge.
He gave me his business card
Take that.
where I got his email address and I sent him an email.
You want them to look at that also?
yeah, you can just give Deputy Thomas whatever you have.
Okay.
All right. I got this and I
Okay.
got a business card.
So we got the card. Mr. Carter, you gave Ms. Fine your card and said, contact me if you're interested. Yes?
Yes, sir.
And you were pretty much going to work from 8 to, was she going to work through lunch as well, or was she done at lunch?
No, the agreement was only until lunch, so 8:30 until 12:30 p.m. Your
Okay.
Honor.
And for that, she was going to get $200.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Now, the $700 you're suing for, was there an issue of getting paid the $200?
The first 200, no. He actually did write me a check after lunch.
Okay.
I was asked to return by Mr. Carter himself, and I stayed for an extra 4 hours.
Okay. If you already got $200 before, where's the $700 come from?
The 700 is for the additional 4 hours that I had stayed.
If I may, she initially the reason why we were here is because she wanted half of the profits from that seminar, which were $1,000 to me. So $500 is what she initially said she wanted.
But you're not even conveying that to me right now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm just nervous from being in court for the first time.
That's fine,
And this is...
because either way, we're only dealing with that additional 4 hours.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. Promotional consideration provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
There was never an agreement as to any additional monies, as to whatever you contributed, whatever you added. So we already know at a minimum that 500 of that 700, that's not going to happen. The only issue that we have is, are you entitled to the additional $200 for the 4 hours of work? Because I think at this point I've heard enough based on the evidence and the testimony before this court. The gavel has to come down in favor of Ms. Fine, the plaintiff. She's entitled to the $200 if she worked 4 additional hours. That has to be now distributed to her. You are not getting that other monies because you're not entitled to it, nor was there any conversation about anything other than
Well, Your Honor, I have proof that...
We're not having a dialogue right now. You're listening to my monologue. You're getting $200. That is the order. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $200. Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.